of April 21st, 2026. Pledge of Allegiance. Steve Feld, would you lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Steve. Well done. Public announcements. Does somebody have one? I haven't thought of that yet, but any announcements from the council?
Yeah, I do think that we have to be careful on fire danger. I think it's been very dry.
Turn your phone.
It's been very dry. We have a higher alert to fires. We know that a couple of years ago, we had a couple of fires. We've been fortunate since, but it's the conditions out there are difficult.
I was going to parrot the same thing. If you take a look, there's an awful lot of globe chamomile that's now drying around, also known as stink net. You need to cut that down and you need to bag it and get it out of your yard because that stuff's like matchsticks.
Okay, town manager report.
Yes, Mayor and Council, I just wanted to, along the same lines with fire preparedness for the season that we're in right now. Just wanted to remind the council that last Saturday, we had our green waste collection event. Approximately 150 loads were received. We didn't measure the tonnage quite yet, but that was actually quite a large number of people. It was more than twice the number that came last month. We had people with 16 loads right at opening. In fact, there were some people already lined up at 7:30 in the morning, ready to do their part to drop off a lot of their yard waste and things like that. So this is part of it. The other thing I want to let the council know, along the lines of Councilmember Rhodes' comment about the stink net, we removed quite a bit out of the right of way. We had quite a bit that we had early on reported to the town, and Howland had his public works crews remove a lot of it. And of course, with stink net, you got to get it before the blooms start to fall off, because in each bloom, it's got like thousands of seeds and all that. So we were able to get a lot of that before those came to fruition. That's all I have of a report. Thank you.
Grady, I like this program very much. I think it's successful. We've done it now for 2 years. Do you see it evolving at all? Do you envision the town being a little more proactive, perhaps with a truck that drives through neighborhoods picking waste up? Could that be possible? I don't have a truck, so I couldn't do what other people do. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who doesn't own a truck. So I'm just asking if there's any thoughts or plans.
I think that would add to the cost tremendously, but we could certainly look at it for sure. There might be some people that don't have the ability to do that. I do know that most of the cities in the valley, either that have their own solid waste services or they contract out, they have like a bulk yard waste cleanup where people are able to do that once or twice or multiple times a year, depends on the community. But that's when they have like their own solid waste service, or they have a single hauler for the entire community, that those are negotiated in the rate.
Right. And I'm just talking about green waste. Just
right. Right. We can certainly look into it.
So you might want to put a form that allows people to say, hey, I've got green waste. When it comes time to that, and maybe have the dump truck go by and pick it up.
Yeah, we'll look at that. I know it'll be a tremendous cost from what we're currently doing, but I'll work with Hal and see what that option might be.
The issue that it's very critical in our area. We're just talking about the risk of fire. I think it would be very beneficial and probably worth more of an investment.
Okay, good point. Thank you.
Okay, call to the public.
I have none.
Okay, we're now a presentation on Bike Week.
Evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you about Bike Week. We had Bike Week. It was April 3rd through 12th. Very well attended event, very busy. Spoke to a lot of the businesses. They felt that the sales, those that participated in Bike Week, felt that their sales were up about 20% over last year, which those of you that recall my presentation last year, I said that their sales were up 20% last year as well. So evidently 20% every year is quite an increase. As far as arrests, we had 3 DUI arrests. We had the DUI task force out here specifically for drunk driving arrests. And for the total event, April 3rd through 12th, we had 3 DUIs. There was 1 serious injury accident that wasn't related to Bike Week, but occurred during Bike Week on April the 3rd. Motorist was, an individual had left one of our local establishments after being there for a while, got in his motor vehicle, was showboating, and ended up on the wrong side of the street, hit another vehicle, and then hit 2 pedestrians that were on the roadway, resulting in serious injuries. That individual was arrested, and he was one of those 3 DUIs, oddly enough. Again, we saw a nice crowds. We had no fights. We had no other serious arrests or incidents during the event. We did, in partnership with Daisy Mountain Fire or Cave Creek Fire, we responded to a lot of medical emergencies, mostly heat related, mostly like dehydration type injuries. No other serious injuries as far as falls or anything crazy like that. And again, you know, to have an event that large and to not have any ruckuses where we have fights or anything like that, I think we definitely came out ahead. Traffic did flow through town. At times it was delayed due to the volumes, but on most days it was flowing through town at a decent rate. MCSO had double the amount of law enforcement officers that we had last year at no cost to the town, which was a lovely experience. We had canine officers, we had lake patrol officers, we had rapid response officers, we had our regular deputies. Grady had asked that we move our traffic deputies' hours during Bike Week, so we had peak coverage for traffic enforcement during Bike Week. The sheriff's office did that. Those of you that were in town and noticed, there were a significant amount of car stops during Bike Week. The reason, obviously, we had a lot more motorcycles, a lot more people in town. With more people, you get more car stops, more violations of the town code and of the vehicle and traffic laws. But a lot of times those car stops, someone does something wrong, the officer will stop them and they're checking to make sure those people aren't intoxicated or anything like that. The fact there are only 3 DUIs and we had the DUI task force out here, I think is actually a really good thing for our town. DUI task force is typically made up of the officers from multiple jurisdictions who are very, very good and very aggressive at finding impaired drivers. Their sole function during DUI task force is to go out and find impaired drivers. We had 3, and that wasn't all the same night. So I think that says something. I think that's pretty good for our town. Again, feedback was pretty good from the businesses that participated. I spoke to one business that does not participate in Bike Week that's a little further south, and he said he supports Bike Week, but it definitely hurts his business. Other than that, there was like negative comment I got from any other businesses. The 2 people that were injured from the motor vehicle accident, again, were both seriously injured, but they are expected to recover. I was out every day during Bike Week, and most of them got to see me walking through town. And like I said, it was a fairly, with the exception of that accident, again, and the accident wasn't someone who was at Bike Week, it was someone just happened to leave a bar at the wrong time. With the exception of that, everything went fairly well during Bike Week. I'd be happy to ask you any questions if you have.
Thank you, Mayor. Is there a specific count of vendors for the total event I don't recall that a specific number was on necessarily the site plan for the special event application. But like at the Horny Toad, X number of vendors, at the Roadhouse, X number of vendors. It just seemed like the density in terms of vendor tents and those related services has really increased the last couple of years. And that would be a statistic I would kind of want more information on.
Just off the cuff, I could tell you that typically Horny Toad. Typically the Horny Toad didn't participate in Bike Week. In the past 3 years, they started participating. So typically you would never see tents down there. First year they had, I think, 8 tents. Second year they had about 15 tents. This year they had a decreased amount of tents. I think they were down to about 12 tents. So that would be the only increase business-wise that of businesses that typically wouldn't have tents that do have tents. That's only been over the past 3 years. Buffalo Chip used to allow tents. They no longer do. They had one mobile tattoo RV there. Danny had pretty much the same number he normally has. Roadhouse, same layout every event, and Hideaway, same layout every event. So again, with the exception of the Horny Toad having decreased amount of tents, and again, they only started participating 3 years ago. There's always some Abe, the owner of Horny Toad, Abe, never wanted to participate in Bike Week, and then he had a change of heart 3 years ago and started. But again, he was down this year over last year's vendors by choice.
Right. And the tents that were at the Old Town Dump property, were those aligned with the Roadhouse or with another business?
No, those are aligned with the Old Town Dump.
Okay, so
he-
that individual property.
Yes, ma'am. And he had last year and the year before, he had allowed people to set up there as well. I think his envelope was a little bit broader this year, so he was able to set them back further from the road. But it was the same amount of vendors this year as he had last year.
I think to the council member's point, though, it did seem like it was more dense. And I don't know if that was maybe layout, just with some of how they did layout this year, maybe to maximize the positioning of the tents. But it seemed to me, just an observation, that it seemed like either more tents or the way they had it laid out just seemed more dense.
I have two things to ask you and one thing to say. I'll just say the first thing, I was physically down there. In fact, somebody on the council said, "What do you do down there?" I said, "I watch music and walk around because I like it."
And talk
But
to everybody.
it went really well. I noticed people crossing the street were thanking the officers constantly, which I thought was, almost like good sportsmanship. I don't know how else to put it. The other thing I wanted to bring out, I'm going to ask you two things to piggyback off what Cynthia said, because I was down there and I did purchase a couple things, and I purchased them at the Old Town Dump location. And when they hit me up with tax, I said to myself, I wonder how this works with the tax, because the town's getting this tax. Who's monitoring this? I don't know if that's a question more so for Grady, but that came up in my mind. How they monitor the taxes, because people think it's all the bike, bars and stuff. There's money made off these vendors, obviously, and a lot. And the last thing I wanted, I hold that thought. The last thing is Saturday night, they had Buckwheat or whatever the name of the band was, Buck Cherry.
Cherry.
Right. But I wasn't in town, and I know that they had said that was an attempt to try to keep things going at night, which they never do. I'm just curious how that went.
I want to go on record, Mayor and Council. I'm not a Buck Cherry fan. I thought that the music was not my liking, but some people liked it. Anticipated crowd was supposed to be, I believe, 1,400 maximum. I believe the crowd count was more around 1,100. Again, no fights, no noise complaints, thank God. I was very surprised. Harold's King built a new pavilion for music, is the best way to describe it. And Grady and I had talked about it, and we said, my golly, is this going to give us more complaints or less complaints? And oddly enough, the music was contained. And again, it wasn't my type of music. So I find it offensive no matter what, but it wasn't as offensive as I thought it would be. The one thing I could say, though, is when the event ended, the Buck Cherry event, a lot of people wanted to take Ubers and ride shares home. And I guess there was a surge pricing going on. And a lot of people, literally one lady told me it was $80 to get picked up across from the Circle K, and she was going right to North Phoenix. So that was the only negative I heard as far as the ingress and egress of the ride shares was an issue for some people.
Down here.
Oh, good. Yeah, sorry.
With the vendor tent layouts and all the parking lots, sometimes those tents are right next to each other. I noticed there's also barbecue pits and other things. Some of those tents are flammable. Do we have a fire marshal or somebody that takes a look at the plans?
We do. When we get the layout, they have to show us on the special event permit where the tents are going to be, how many tents. Fire Marshal Adam Hicks reviews all those tents, make sure that the spacing is proper. There were actually no fire, no one was barbecuing or anything like that, with the exception there was a food truck at Harold's, Harold's, so a Mexican food truck. But other than that, there were no other open fires or anything like that near those tents. But again, Adam's job is to review them and make sure that if they require a permit, they get the permit, and to make sure they meet the fire code. There's a standard as far as distancing, how many are allowed to be in a row before a separate fire break has to be in place.
Adam, whether or not you want to describe the terrible accident that happened as being affiliated with Bike Week or not, I happen to disagree. First of all, he drove the wrong way down the street that was cordoned off. So if he was in his right mind and Bike Week wasn't happening, he probably would have been going the right way down the street, because the roads were, dissected in essence. So, and secondly, the town got all kinds of negative publicity because of that event on the news media. And so it has created a new aura for Bike Week in Cave Creek. And I've also seen it described as Cave Creek Bike Week, not Arizona Bike Week, not Scottsdale Bike Week. If Arizona didn't even have Bike Week, Cave Creek Bike Week would continue to exist. So it was an unfortunate event, but it happened during Bike Week, and it happened because of all the confusion of Bike Week. And we have to do something different next year. And I'm wondering if there's a debrief that is going to take place with the bar owners who host Bike Week, with the town, because I think that we have to keep communication open with them, and also let them know that no matter if there were only 3 DUIs, 0 DUIs would be even better. And I think that they need to know that we're watching and we're concerned for the residents in our town who don't like Bike Week, that takes over our town for 2 weeks a year. So, that's just my thoughts. It's not as simple as what I think you're trying to express here. It's a big deal, and it has to be controlled.
With all due respect, Mayor, Vice Mayor, the day of the event, there were no road closures. It was a Friday. It was a soft opening of Bike Week, which they've done for as long as I can remember. There were no road closures. There were no barricades in the road. There were nothing different than a regular.
So there were
Friday.
4 lanes, and he was
Yes,
going
ma'am.
the wrong way down.
Well, it wasn't that simple. He was drunk. He had already gone through eastbound, then decided to pull a U-turn. And when he pulled the U-turn, he was driving the wrong way on the one-way he was driving the wrong direction. He was driving southbound or westbound he was driving westbound and eastbound lanes. But there was no cones, there was no nothing. There was nothing that confused.
So we don't do
drunk.
that until the
He was a drunk
second
driver.
weekend?
Excuse
We
me.
we don't change the lanes until the second weekend?
No, actually, the next day.
Oh.
I would recommend, we are doing a debriefing, and my recommendation would be that we consider the traffic control starting on Friday, the first Friday of the event, straight through the rest of the event for safety.
And increased
Increase.
coverage from law
Yeah.
enforcement.
Yeah, we did approve that already in the budget,
Mhm.
but yeah, I mean, I know that you work very hard to control it as best you
We do.
can, but it could be improved every year, as much as we can. Try to preclude any kind of incidents like this year, because again, the pall that was cast on our town because of it is going to remain with us for a while.
I take it quite personally when we.
I know you do. I know you do your best that you can. And there's always somebody who, you don't have control over, but we need to do more.
Sure.
because
At the
it's-
time of this particular incident, as I've already told you guys, I literally had two cars pulled over, literally, writing in tickets. And then this happened. We had a lot of officers on duty. I personally was on duty. We literally were pulling over cars for speeding, slowing them down before they got to the zone. When this incident occurred, I literally had two cars at Basin Road that I was getting ready to write a ticket to. This kicked out. I got on scene in under 2 minutes. I was the second deputy or second officer there. Anything that happens in our town that adversely affects our residents or visitors is bad. I agree 1,000%. And I think you're right that there's always something that can be done better. And we try very hard to do that. Like I said, we doubled the amount of law enforcement for this year's event than we had last year. But that Friday is typically a much lighter day, which is why we don't shut down the roads. I think next year moving forward, it would be prudent that we do.
Mhm. Okay.
That's my opinion.
Councilmember McGuire.
How long has Bike Week taken place in Cave Creek?
As long as I can remember.
Yeah.
I got here in
And-
2002. Previous marshal was fired for the way he handled Bike Week. So I guess.
And what I think I've seen is a learning process. So as Bike Week has increased, you can't control everything, but I think that the citizens see that you have increased your skills and your protection of the community, learning from one time to the next. You're not going to be able to see everything, but I think I've seen a change in the way that the town has operated, and it has become better as the situations probably become more important. Question: do the vendors have to have business licenses?
Yes, we inspect every vendor to make sure that they have business licenses. If you have a business license, typically you have your TPT as well, to the tax question that Councilman Freeman asked. And again, we inspect all of them. This year was actually, Teresa and I went out, and the compliance rate was huge increase over previous years. I think we had 4, or was it 6? How many? Yeah, I think we had 4 vendors total that hadn't gotten their license yet. So I think Teresa's training them. It's working. Whatever she's doing is working, because again, compliance was much, much greater. Normally, we would spend 2 days and we'd have to get them to get their permits while we're on site. And then we did let them know this year that because we had such a good compliance number, next year, we're not gonna have any grace. If we come and you don't have your business license, you're just gonna get a ticket. Citation.
Other questions, comments? Seeing none, thank you very much. Adam,
Thank you.
and thank you for all your hard work. It's keeping the lid on is an incredible feat. Next on the agenda is the council discussion, possible direction regarding a proposed policy on license plate camera reading technology.
Mayor, I'm going to go ahead and kick off the introduction of this topic. So the council recall at the council retreat in February, there was an item on your agenda that dealt with this specifically. And Adam, if you recall, gave a presentation on how many cameras we had. These are for license plate reading technology cameras, and the locations where they are, and some of the successes with those. And during the retreat, the council there, I believe it might have been Council Member Augerton who had specific questions about the contract with the vendor, which is Flock, for our cameras, and concerns about possible, data. How's the data being handled? How is it stored? How long is it stored? Who has access to it? All those questions. So I engaged Bill, because the council directed us to come back to you at a later date. And so Bill has a little bit of information he's going to share with you about that. And then he has a proposed concept of a policy that would be a council adopted policy, not for your consideration tonight, but for your review of the Safford policy and to provide direction to staff on what you'd like to see in your policy. And then Marshall Stein will also share with you some more recent incidents where this technology has helped law enforcement. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the town attorney.
Mr. Mayor, thank you, Grady, members of the council. Sorry. I asked Teresa to send me pages from Facebook because I'm incapable of even getting onto Facebook and to describe what your constituents have said about license plate readers. They see it as Epstein class authoritarianism. I'm not quite sure Epstein is the authoritarian, but post-Weimar fascism, neighbors spying on neighbors, creating a portfolio on everyone, selling the information nationwide. Those are the concerns. And I understand some of you had concerns about how long the data is stored. So I asked the marshal to get me the document, and I have it here, and I'll go through it. And I think it addresses the concerns your constituents have, but it doesn't necessarily get you eventually where you want to go. As you know, I'm the town attorney for now 6 towns, so I called. 5 of the towns are like you. They just have the contract. They have nothing else. Safford has a policy that we're going to go through that I think you could direct me to come back to you, and it would address some of your constituents' concerns while preserving the efficacy of license plate reading, and we're going to walk through some of the successes. But let's first go through the agreement to see what it says. They are required, and I can't say the word, to anonymize, to make data anonymous. I can't say the past tense of anonymized data. They have to strip it from anything that allows the individual to be identified. The individual cannot be identified. All they do are read license plates. The data that is retained is video footage. And that footage then is caused to be changed so it doesn't describe any individual or any specific data, any personal data. What they do is they provide an automated license plate service detection, and then they provide that to you, your law enforcement, for the purposes of law enforcement, and we'll talk about the benefits. It's only retained for 30 days. Safford has 1 year. Your agreement with them, they retain it for 30 days. There was a concern your constituents raised about the public having access. Well, only authorized users, meaning, and they have to have a password and ID on your staff, have access to it. Now, some could be concerned that somehow you don't want your staff to use it inappropriately. That's why we're going to talk about the Safford policy. You own the data, they don't. There's no way they could sell it. And if they did, and it says we do not sell the data, it would be a breach. And so if we have a policy, you say your constituents, if you become aware that they're selling data, tell us and we will enforce our contract. So I think the contract is good, but it doesn't get you all the way there. So let me walk you through. The police chief down in Safford wrote this, and I'm going to give you some examples of how Safford has used this, and then Marshall's going to talk about how he's used it. This goes beyond that contract and allows you to adopt a policy to address the concerns that were registered on Facebook. This policy ensures compliance with all applicable laws, constitutional rights, promotes transparency, accountability, and public trust. That's the introductory statement to address some of the concerns your constituents had. How is it used? To enhance public safety, support criminal investigations, and assist in locating stolen property, usually vehicles. They take the license plate and then they in effect and make it anonymous so that they cannot be tied to any individual, with one exception. If indeed, then you're going to see some of the examples, there's a detection of a license plate where a crime is being committed, then they would tie that to the vehicle to find the individual only with probable cause to try to arrest them. Right now, the department, meaning here, it's the department shall implement system-based security controls. This is controlling your people, including access restrictions, user authentication, audit logging, and to safeguard the data. I think that's why we can't just rely on the license plate agreement with Flock. Who knows how they came up with that name? But and then you have a policy, though you make sure that the information is used appropriately. Safford keeps it for 1 year. This is the way it finishes. The Safford Police Department is committed to transparency and accountability. The technology is used solely for legitimate law enforcement purposes, including enhancing public safety, supporting criminal investigations. They do not use the information to monitor individuals or groups without any lawful justification, meaning probable cause. Safeguards, including access controls, retention limits, and audit procedures, have to be implemented. So what we can do is, if you decide to have me come back with a policy, and I'll work with Adam to come back with a policy that does that, and I'll get Safford to help me understand what their audit controls are. But I asked the police chief, and he's quite good down there. Not as good as Adam, but he's quite good. Here's some of the successes. A homicide suspect was detected passing through Safford. Officers from several agencies responded. They ended up in an officer-involved shooting of the suspect. A child sex assault case, there was someone outside the jurisdiction. The suspect had left. The Flock cameras alerted the officers that the suspect was now in the jurisdiction and he was arrested. They located a silver alert from an individual out of Phoenix, and this could be me in a few years. He had dementia, and they had to reunite him with his home. And so, but the Flock found the individual, called his family, and they came and got him. So that's why the license plate reading has utility. I think the Flock agreement gives you the basics so that you can explain to your constituents how they're protected. I think the Safford agreement takes it further so you can adopt policies so that you can find me when I'm driving through to send me home. And so now let the marshal talk about how what benefits he's seen.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, for this opportunity to speak to you. So since we've had the Flock system, we had a shooting in town. We were able to use the Flock system to help identify who the suspect vehicle was, and then have a license plate to work off of. So it was helpful for that. We've recovered 2 missing people due to the Flock cameras. I've personally recovered 1 stolen vehicle. Sheriff's Office has recovered approximately 3 stolen vehicles since we've had it. We had a series of burglaries occur in town. We used the Flock system to help identify the vehicle involved. Unfortunately, they were smarter than the average bear and took off their license plate, but at least we were able to tell you the make and model of the vehicle. Had that camera not been there, we wouldn't have had that information. A prime example of what we use Flock for in town, we just had an accident on, I think it was Sunday. We had a hit and run at Jack Cartwright Pass and Cave Creek Road. Individual struck a bunch of gabions, fence, and a sign. Literally took the sign right off at the base. Just kept going. We were able to use the Flock camera to figure out time-wise color of the vehicle and that type of thing. So that helped. That subject was arrested, and oddly enough, he will be paying restitution to the town if convicted for all the damage he did. So again, we've had success in our town with the Flock. Thank God we don't have a lot of shootings. We don't have a lot of heavy crime, but we do have some crime, and the system is used to help solve those crimes as an investigative tool. One of the things that Bill said was the access of the system. There's only 1 employee that the town has that has access to Flock, and I want to be clear about that. There's 1 sworn police officer employed by the town of Cave Creek. That's me. I've been your marshal for 24 years. I am regulated by the state of Arizona. I'm certified by the state of Arizona. The state of Arizona uses the Arizona Criminal Justice Information System in order to access classified data, law enforcement sensitive data. Obviously, I'm certified in it. I get recertified in it every 2 years. I get audited on it don't quote me, I think it's every 2 years as well. The state comes up and audits it. They look at what we've looked at. what license plates have been put through the system, what purpose they were put through the system. So it's a very well-regulated process. Violation of the Arizona Criminal Justice Information System could result in the termination of my employment. It also result in the revocation of my police officer certification, something that I've had since I was very, very young, and I wish to hold until I am old in Bill's age. So again, it's a very well-regulated safety net to make sure that the system isn't violated. Do we hear stories of big cities that have, issues with a rogue officer here and there? Of course we do. But, we read about police officers that get into shootings that aren't authorized throughout the country. It's terrible and it's sad, but it doesn't mean that it's happening here. And I just want to be clear about that. Any other questions? Bill? Thank you.
Oh, sorry, but you're asking that, sorry. Thank you. Had a dementia moment.
Turn your microphone on, Bill.
That's all we have. Now, the question is what direction you wish to give us. My recommendation as your town attorney is that I use the Safford model. And you're not out of the ordinary. I mean, the other five are just like you. They just relied on the agreement. But you have constituents who have raised issues. Some of you have raised issues. And so we can learn from the Safford policy, and then we can come back with a policy that you could approve.
Well, one question I have is, where is the data kept? Is it kept in the cloud or is it kept in your PC?
You know? I don't know where I have no idea. Probably the data center built.
So I don't believe it's a cloud. I think they have a server that they have access to.
The cloud is a server.
Yeah.
If it's off site, then we don't have control over the data.
So it's not on site, but the only data that Flock has would be a photograph, it's not video, of a vehicle with a plate color.
Were you aware that Block was hacked and somebody had
Thank you.
had all the across the country had all the Flock data?
Well, I actually asked Flock about that, and Flock has assured me that they've never been hacked, that there is rumors, but according to Flock, they have never been hacked, and they're regulated by multiple government agencies as well. As per Flock, they have never been hacked, quote unquote.
Yet. Everybody else has.
There's a possibility the sky's going to fall, but is it going to happen today? I don't know.
Okay, somebody else had a question?
Yeah, I have a couple comments real quick here. I'm just going to say all my comments. You guys can answer them any way you want. Why should we trust this when trust of the government currently is at an all-time low? Number one. Number two, what proof can we get that Flock will do what they say they're going to do with the data? I mean, I just heard the hacked, and I was going to say that as well. I'd like to say that I'm not a big fan of Big Brother. Things are getting very complicated these days, it seems like. When is enough enough? That's kind of it. I mean, this is a fine line. It's good, but it's bad. So when does the good outweigh the potential of bad?
I saw your hand, Dusty. We'll head this way next.
Yeah, just kind of, you got the information from the folks off of Facebook, correct? You did. So here's the ironic thing. When you use Facebook or you use any social media, they record the device that you're on, the date, the time, the exact location down to the specific address that you're doing it from, or if you're in the car and you're moving, they'll tell you which cell phone tower it was closest to. You have no privacy the way it is right now. The National Security Agency, based on the Patriot Act, collects every single communication you make with a cell phone or with a computer or anything else. The real question is, what safeguards are there to ensure that it's not being abused? And I think that's what the heart of your question was. So that's what I would like to see in whatever policy that we come up with. I don't have a problem with collecting the data. I just want to make sure the data is not being misused. And law enforcement is a valid purpose. But I will also tell you that if you think you have privacy, if you have an electronic device, you got another thing coming.
Tom?
Councilperson Friedman, I think you've raised a very important question. And I think that that has to come back to us. When is enough enough? That's why we're here. That's why we're monitoring the system. And that's what we have to do. I think that's our responsibility.
Bring back 1970.
Cynthia.
Thank you, Mayor. Question for Marshall Stein. Currently with Flock, how do you access the information? Do you like query it about a certain license plate number if you're looking for someone? Do you query it about time and location if you suspect activity? How is that data accessed and used?
So the Flock camera systems are active 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They are fixed objects that scan license plates of vehicles that drive by. If a vehicle that drives by has a license plate that's connected to a missing person, stolen vehicle, that type of thing, it would send off an alert. It sends an email and a text message saying, hey, you have someone with a stolen vehicle. You have someone with a warrant. You have someone missing, a gray alert, silver alert, amber alert, whatever it could be. It also does have the ability that if we had, for example, if we have a hit and run and we know that Monday at 2:00, there was a red Toyota Camry driving on XY Cave Creek Road. No one got the license plate. We could then go into the camera system. And if it was going in that direction, we'd be able to see it. I want to be perfectly clear. The data that that system gives us is available to every single person here that goes into our parking lot. You can see that you drive a red Toyota. You can see that he drives a gold Ford and your license plate. That data is what they're providing. They're not saying that that vehicle is registered to Cynthia Driscoll. It's not registered to Adam Stein. That data is not something that Flock provides. They simply provide the color of the vehicle, the license plate of the vehicle, the date and time of where it was. And then again, if it's in the national system, as being a stolen vehicle, missing person, abduction, that type of thing, it would go off for that. But again, it doesn't say who's driving the vehicle. You still need your law enforcement to have probable cause to stop the vehicle, figure out who's driving it, and then do their proper investigation. It doesn't eliminate the need for an investigation, I guess is my point.
Okay, one more.
Sure. Yeah.
Earlier this year, Tempe was doing a pilot program with Axon on their license plate reader. Are there other jurisdictions in the county that are doing that likewise? And do you have an opinion on, is it comparable? Is it potential to be better or more secure than what we have now with Flock?
I chose Flock because of their reputation. This is pre-Super Bowl commercial. Flock gave us the safeguards we needed, gave us a solid platform that many law enforcement throughout the country are using. There are other companies that offer license plate readers. 3 that come to the top of my mind. I don't think that when we look at license plate readers, any one of us in this room are saying, well, with the exception of maybe Councilman Friedman, any one of us in this room are saying that all license plate readers are bad. It's a tool used by law enforcement to help public safety. The way I look at it, if it saves one life, if it prevents one crime, if it helps us recover one missing child, then it was worth everything I've given up. Well, what have I given up? I've given up that when my vehicle goes past that license plate reader, that they know my license plate and they know the color of my car. They don't know if I was driving it, if Ella was driving it. They only know my vehicle, what location it passed, what time, and what my license plate was. I don't find that very intrusive. When I go to Fry's, as soon as I walk into a Fry's, any Fry's, I'm on video. I look up and I see myself and I think, wow, my hair looks good that day. This is akin to that, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
So some of the towns you are approaching speed cameras, for example. I don't know if that's a legality or why. I know they do it in Scottsdale. Couldn't we have, if we're going to go through with this, couldn't we have something saying you are approaching Flock cameras? So it's not like, an unmarked car.
I don't think I would put Flock in the same category as photo enforcement. I'm not a big fan of photo enforcement. I've said that my 24 years here. Yeah, of course, Councilman, if you want to put up a sign saying that we use Flock cameras, it's not going to hurt anything. I think that, I do want to make one statement, unfortunately. Bill was talking about Facebook and your constituents. I read what the councilor read. Those were general. Those weren't Cave Creek specific. Those were general comments on Facebook from flock or from anti-flock people. I've been a cop my whole life. I'm not a big fan of Big Brother. Don't get me wrong. I am not. I'm also not a fan of Bike Week for that matter. However, I think that there are certain things that I'm willing as a human being to agree to if it helps keep us safe. And this particular item, these license plate readers, help keep us much safer than we were before we had them, in my opinion. Good, bad, or indifferent. And again, anyone can go in a parking lot right now, take a picture of your car with your license plate. That is what license plate readers do. They take a picture of your car with a license plate. The only difference is they run it through a national system to see if you have a warrant, if missing person, abduction, that type of stuff. The same rules of procedure that I follow, it's not any big surprise. Every police officer in this town, in this county, has a computer in their vehicle that gives me more information than what a flock camera gives me, right? And there are some traffic officers that their function in life is to sit on the side of the road running license plates. Good, bad, or indifferent, it's still happening. The difference is in our small town, this is a force multiplier that helps us keep public safety within our local jurisdiction a little bit tighter than if we didn't have them, in my opinion.
I'm not saying either that it's a bad thing. I'm asking questions because nobody seemed to even know what flock was. 6 months ago, I started getting a couple of people in town started asking me about it. And I said, I don't know what you're talking about. Oh yeah. And I was like, that's why I came up at the town retreat with a few of us. And if it works and it's good, I'm all for it. I just, it's kind of like AI. We just don't know enough about some of these things, and we know that they can bring good to us, but is there also bad? We want to know those questions. We want proof that, they're not going to get hacked up in the cloud or something, So
I would like to think that we'll never get hacked, but
I
that
mean,
probably
I'm
ignorant.
right. No, I'm sure. I mean, like I said before, I enjoyed the 70s better than I do now.
No comment.
Tom Margaret, did you want to weigh in?
Not really. The reason the issue came up at the retreat was kind of what's been discussed here already, which was some of the Scott questions. I think the policy is a great idea. So there's some type of operational legal format framework in which this town, the council never asked for this. Clearly it was chosen by staff, and then we're kind of in a reactionary mode here from this. We need to know how many flock cameras there are. We need to know if they're going to be using temporary cameras, because at Bike Week, I was told there were temporary cameras out there. Is that part of our strategy in the community, that placement is not permanent? Placement is depending on the event or the timing. So I don't know the answer to that. I think signage is a common courtesy. We've never had a hearing prior to this afternoon on this issue. The money was expended the first year before there was any discussion. I'm guessing the annual cost is still $12,000. So I'm assuming that's what the placeholder amount is. But I think that the primary citizen reaction, not understanding the technology or the partnership with law enforcement, has been askance, because the national environment is different than it's been probably in previous years. But I think signage would be imperative. I would think as a courtesy to the people that live and visit here, but also as a disincentive for people to think that this is a lawless community and that they can come up here and drag race and spin donuts and do things like that just because we have an observation of motorcycles. So I think the policy is needed. I think we need a number of these cameras that are permanently installed. If we're using temporary cameras, I'd like to know that. I think it should be on the website, along with a brief narration of what flock cameras are. It would be nice if American law enforcement supports this, to have the police association or somebody else to endorse this, so we understand that this is a tool to help protect public safety and not just something that is gee whiz that we're moving into before we have a policy consideration of it. And hopefully we don't have problems in the community with ICE and other enforcement activities. A brief historical reminder: this is the town that had a council that approved a punitive ordinance that targeted people that were standing in front of Circle K's who happened to be Hispanic, looking for day work, and the town was sued, and the town lost. Now, we were fortunate that it was the ACLU who were after law fees, legal fees, court costs, but not a punitive damage. So that's why my initial concern was, like other people have spoken here, what's a flock camera? And then noting the capability of flock camera, how are we integrating it here in this community? How is the sheriff's office integrating it in the communities they have contractual relationships with? At some point, I think we ought to have a presentation by the sheriff's office. And if there's an alternate view of flock cameras, I think we would benefit from knowing that as well. But I would just love a list of who is in American law enforcement or Arizona law enforcement, or does DPS have a statement or a position? If most of the law enforcement officers associations value this and partner with it and so forth, then we should become aware of that and provide that as community information as well. But it feels like an ankle monitor, but it's not on the ankle, it's on the bumper. So that's why people, I think, have an initial knee-jerk reaction. And the council never discussed this, and the council never was able to answer. I mean, in criticism of ourselves, we were not even able to answer a question on what these are and why and how they got here. So I appreciate at least getting this on the agenda this afternoon.
Heard that Vice Mayor speaks. And you, do you want to speak?
No.
Oh, okay.
I just had one thing. If we're going to put signs up, I would recommend we put them at any place coming into town. I wouldn't put them anywhere near the flock cameras, because you're just inviting somebody to yank them out and take them home and, beat on them with a hammer or something.
Yeah, I'll make a historical comment. Tom, I was on the council when we looked at several ordinances. There were 3 ordinances, and one of the ordinances was we will cooperate with the government and enforce law. I voted for that ordinance. One of the ordinances had to do with loitering, and that was a really difficult one. There were legal issues with that. The other one, the second one, was the one where Mayor Bunch did his homework, and he went into Phoenix and he found out that in Phoenix they had an ordinance that had to do with people stopping and picking up workers along the road. It was a traffic issue. And in Phoenix, the issue was supported by the courts. But we got sued by MALDEF and by the ACLU. And when the judge looked at it, the outcome was that the judge said, you said this was a traffic ordinance. When we looked at the dialogue that took place in your council, nobody talked about traffic. It was all about illegal aliens. And that's the basis upon which we lost the lawsuit. Ernie did his homework, but we as a council were really talking about an ordinance that was passed for a reason that wasn't the reason it was passed in Phoenix, as evidenced by the discussion among the people on the dais and the public.
I'm going to bring us back to the flock cameras here. Any other comments from council? I just want to, I'm going to give public comment in just a second, but this is like a drop of water in the ocean. Microsoft is stealing it. Lowe's has cameras, grocery stores, parking lots have cameras. If you have Alexa in your living room, it's listening to everything you do. All these, your TV is spying on you. And they're selling data that's a lot worse than a car and a license plate, all to the purpose of selling, I think, Adam's comment, all the purpose of selling stuff as opposed to keeping us safe. This is one thing I can see that is probably keeping us safe. So I'm a privacy nut. I watch John Padfield, who's a professor, and he has, I sent some of that out, I think, yeah, and he's going around the country trying to light a fire under privacy in general, but there is zero privacy now with all electronic stuff. So I don't find that this is intrusive. And if it is intrusive, all Flock has to do is go find a piece of private property, put a camera next to the road and start reading the cameras and facial recognition. You can walk down the street with these glasses and people's names pop up as you walk down the street. It's just, it is out of control. This is, compared to all the other privacy violations, this is frankly trivial. So I'm in favor of it, and I don't know how to get away from all the other, I'm more worried at the other stuff than I am to this. So I'm in favor of having a policy. But I think it does have a purpose, and that's solving crime. And that's something that keeps our town safe. So everybody else has had a chance to talk. So let's public comment.
I have no one wishing to speak.
No public comment. Okay.
Sorry about that. I didn't sign on. Can I speak, please?
Yeah, go ahead.
APN.
Give them
Horse
a hand
insurance.
instead of three, isn't it?
Sorry about that.
I'm teasing.
This was in your budget. So that's the disclosure. It was a line item in the budget. That's the disclosure. That's where the public could have found it before it was approved. That's where you should have found it before it was approved. So you're getting a little bit of your own medicine because you guys approved it in last year's budget. It was a line item in there. Thank you.
Thank you, David. That's all in. Okay, so I'm going to make a motion that we direct staff to propose a policy on flock cameras.
Second.
Comments?
Mr. Mayor, I could ask for, we'll give you a policy, but my question is, there was a number of other factors. Do you want us to look at to address safety?
Turn your
and-
mic
and
on.
Oh, sorry, and hacking. And I guess my point there is, I suspect you have large amounts of data already offsite that have similar risks, but we will ask Flock about whether they were hacked. But I think you already have that exposure with all your other data, but we'll find out. We will ask about the number of cameras, the location of the cameras. Do you want us to come back with a sign proposal?
You can put it in there. I'm not in favor of that.
Okay, we'll do. Okay.
We have a democratic process.
And we'll ask Adam to see, the police chief down at Stafford, we'll see if we can get some endorsements. This isn't in the direction. We'll give you the policy, but these other factors, I think we're going to come back to you and answer some of those questions. Okay.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Motion passes 7-0. We're on to the last item on the agenda, which is Communications and Public Affairs Department report. A department of one.
I have to use the big chairs. Thank you, Mayor and Vice Mayor and Council. This is a report I think is long overdue. So you're going to get a lot of long overdue information. But I've tried to update it to be as current as possible as well. To get started, so we're not here all night. Hopefully you've had a chance to read through your packet, what the communications plan is all about and what the Department of One is doing or trying to do. These are basically the 8 main program initiatives that I work on every day and try to achieve on behalf of the town. And with strategic goals as well, crisis communications I know is brought up today, as well as social media is always top of mind, and it's becoming by far our #1 marketing tool that we have. Building media relations, which we have strong media relations going on even here tonight. Our online digital management system, our community relations. I'm out meeting with businesses a couple times a week. For either events or working on future projects, and employee communications. We've started an employee newsletter, and we want to be consistent with that to keep it going on a monthly basis. You know, being a small town, we don't always have a lot to say, and so we just try to make sure that employees are engaged because really staff are the #1 marketing tool for the town because someone's going to ask a question. And when I say staff, also council as well, you need to be informed of what we're doing so that you're aware and you can speak intelligently if someone asks you. This is just an overview of kind of the audience and the channels of communications that I'm sounding like I need some of that medicine already we've been talking about, of who we reach out to in the community as well as the Valley, and even on the national scale. As you know, we just had a story that's probably going to hit some national NPR stations dealing with water, and it worked out really well. I think Sean and Brad did an outstanding job. Mayor, I'm sorry you ended up on the
cutting
editorial
room
floor, but he said some great things. Bless you.
Thank you. All right.
So anyway, this is looking at last year, 2025. And I can tell you right now, I kind of like press releases, what I've done already this year, so you can kind of figure out, kind of the pacing. I'm at 25 press releases already for this year. But last year we cranked out 71. Produced 4 prospector newsletters because they do come out on a quarterly basis, and the social media content for the town saw engagement increase of nearly 7%. However, you're going to see this is a little skewed. This is from the town. This is not the actual Tourism Bureau, formerly known as Tourism Bureau's social media account. And I'm going to show you some of these numbers right now or pretty soon. We do some advertising for at the time, Tourism Bureau and print publications, and we work with our local publications that I'll share with you some of the ads that we've been doing. I keep saying we, I apologize. The annual reports highlighting the town, as well as 2 quality water reports for Desert Hills as well as for the town I produced last year. We did some video. I did some videos, Cave Creek water, talking about the future of the water, and I want to thank the Vice Mayor for the connections with CAP to get that content as well as her voiceover. The state of the town overview, turquoise finals. I did a welcome video that played actually in the VIP tent. Didn't make the big screen as I was hoping, but maybe this year. Taste of Cave Creek, Buffalo Chip, Big Girls, Holiday Magic, and then videotaping of a variety of community events that hopefully get used in future videos, but we have it. And just today, I was out taking photographs not only of road construction. Every time there's a road being worked on, I try to get out and get some visuals. I even was out at the rodeo today getting a picture of the road grader. So I know Hal's going to laugh about that one. So they're working on the parking lot out there. So it's like whenever a department asks for a picture to be taken, I willingly go out and try to get it because it will become an important feature somewhere down the road of helping to tell our story. We made a branding change this past year on social media and for the Tourism Bureau. We changed the name to Visit Cave Creek. It's more proactive. It tells people really what we're talking about. And this includes not only in our social media pages, because before Facebook, for example, said Tourism Bureau, which it doesn't roll off the tongue. You just really can't think of like, what am I looking for here? But Visit Cave Creek says tourism. And so we tried to change all of our social media platforms to a Visit Cave Creek. And even on X, formerly known as Twitter, even though it says the name of @Play in Cave Creek, because Visit Cave Creek AZ was not available thanks to the Chamber of Commerce, who had it 10 years ago, but they forgot the password, so we weren't able to get it back from them and change it. So
and I let him do the pledge.
yeah, we'll keep that in mind for the next meeting.
Yeah, that's it. You're off the list, Steve.
But we also changed the website. Instead of just cavecreekaz.gov and go look for tourism, it has its own URL now to visitcavecreek.com, and that allows people then, so it has its own identity out there, and we're already seeing some progress. Some of the tourism marketing that we've done so far in 2025, engagements are up nearly 84%. Our impressions on our social media pages are up nearly 200%, and video views have skyrocketed, as you can tell, up to nearly 47,000. That was in 2025. For Visit Cave Creek, or for the Visit Cave Creek Facebook page, so you know, we changed the name or the URL address of Facebook and all of our platforms on August 15th. So some of these numbers you're going to see some numbers that are like a big difference. Starting when we changed, we had 975 followers, starting August 15th. And it jumped up to nearly 1,600. As of today or last week, we're 4,400 followers on Facebook. And that went up about 400 just in the past week. And a lot of it depends on what we're showing, some of the videos that we show, some of the events that we're highlighting. And so it all comes down to content to get people engaged to want to do it, and they're sharing it. But we're also making a big move. And here's some of the branding, I'm sorry, for the Visit Cave Creek and some of the things that we've done. But a lot of what we've done is to start targeting the Phoenix market, because social media is great. A lot of times you have your choir that kind of follows you. You need to find that new audience to help build your audience. And so we're working hard to get the Phoenix visitor to come up here to Cave Creek to spend their money. And because we look at kind of our social media and our tourism is our economic development drive for the town. And that's what I'm working really hard to build up. But you can see just in the town of Cave Creek social media this past year, we're now up to 9,100 followers. Instagram has grown to 2,200. Our X is at 1,400, and LinkedIn is pretty consistent. It's grown a little bit, but it's still a little under 700. And I forgot to mention that in our tourism page, we're using a company called E Squared Marketing, and they've been extremely effective in helping branch us out to get out there. And I asked them this past year to, instead of having the full run of not only our town social media and our tourism social media, they're just helping with the tourism social media. I felt on the town, I can handle that. That's just making sure that, this is for residents as much as anything, making sure residents are aware of what's going on and keeping them informed. But for tourism, using them to put the efforts in our dollars into attracting more people to town is where their strengths lay. And so that's what I asked them to do. And also it saved money on the budget. So here you go. This is from last year. This is the town of Cave Creek. This is not our tourism. This is coming from Hootsuite, which is the platform that the town's using to kind of help us spread the word on Facebook, Instagram, and X, as well as LinkedIn. So you can see quite a bit of activity that we're getting from our posts. Last year, I posted nearly 1,000 posts, which is up from the year before. You can see the number of clicks have gone up and the engagement rate. That's the number you were seeing right there, where more people are being, they're following us in the sense of like they're liking something. That's an engagement. They're watching a video, and it's just reaching more people. So it's really kind of getting exciting. The 13,923 followers. Now, don't forget, this is for all of our platforms that we're using, not just Facebook, but this includes our town's Instagram, X, and LinkedIn, for an example. And these are just some of the top posts that from 2025. And again, you can see some of the events that people like. Even though a lot of these are tourism type of events, they're more exciting than the water's out in a certain neighborhood. So that's why we get more likes than that, safe to say. And that's okay. It still gets people liking this, they're sharing it. And if more people in town are following our social media pages, I hope they're safer and better off for it, because we use our social media as a primary communications tool for if there's a wildfire, for example, or if there's a water outage or a power outage in a certain area, or if there's another safety issue. We want people to find their information from the town, which is our town website, our town social media pages, and as well as our Code Red if need be. We, meaning I, also do advertising, this is money that was kind of handed over from Luke to run the tourism advertising. And it's been consistent over the past few years. We have kind of a platform of publications that we use to help tell our story. And I am looking at this to go, is this the money? Are we using our money the best we can to reach the most people we can? Or are we getting the best bang for our buck when it's all said and done? And so we've been following this kind of platform of the Cave Creek Visitors Guides, True West Magazine, Experience AZ, which is fantastic actually, for several years. But I am looking at these to go, is this really where we want to spend our money moving forward? Is it enough money? And I think it is. I just need to reposition it. I don't know if it needs to be all in these publications exactly. And so, True West is wonderful, but there's some concerns about, for example, are they still going to be running? That is a question that I have. The Cave Creek Visitors Guide is already here in town. I'm not sure if it's, and these are questions. I'm not saying I'm polling, but I ask these questions. I go, it's already here. Are people really, if they're using this publication, does the town need an ad in here versus, all the other businesses that already have their ads in here? Because that's the whole idea, is to get, those businesses attraction. So they're in their advertising already. So what's the town really advertising? Those businesses are already there that, in other publications I am trying to advertise. True West is different because we would be the only ad in there about Cave Creek per se. We wouldn't have a lot of our local restaurants in that publication, for example. So an ad in True West, for example, say, hey, Cave Creek's the place you need to be if you want that Western heritage experience. And so that makes sense. And Experience AZ the same way. We are the ad that would drive people to Cave Creek. We're not expecting that Stumbelina's or Janie's is in there running an ad in that. We're in the business of driving people to Cave Creek. That's why we would be in a publication like that. We did this last year, and I think we're going to continue. We split an ad with Carefree. They were going to run an ad. We were going to run an ad, and thought like, well, that's kind of stupid. We're in the same neighborhood. We both win when you get more people up here. So I was working with their communications person, and we got together and created an ad, kind of selling our story, their story, working together. And this idea was shared with both mayors. Come up with the idea of like, how can we share more experiences that we have? And so it worked out really well, and we're going to continue this. And it's, like I said, it saves some money. It allows me to spend money in some other places as well. And this is duplicate. Sorry about that. Here's another ad, just some ad examples that we've done. The one on the left it kind of launched our 40th anniversary campaign, and it ran in our art fair. Forgive me, get the name. The showcase, artist showcase. And so that's something that I know got a lot of viewership and high-end viewership. And the ad on the right, different variations of this size, basically helping to sell our town. And it'll be a new look going for this year, but I still want to maintain our theme of kind of what you get to experience in Cave Creek. This past year, we also, beginning of this year actually, we celebrated our Spur Cross Ranch conservation area anniversary. And except for being extremely cold and extremely windy, it was a pretty good event. I've talked to the chair of the supervisors. She's been up there a couple times, and I keep running into her, which is kind of fun. And she still brings it up of like really how much fun she had and really enjoyed it, and just loves being up here, which is always good. I'm not going to say it's our event that she loved, but she did. She really did. And we counted over 150 people there, and not counting the vendors. So I think it turned out to be a pretty good event. The America 250, I'll be honest, I was expecting 8,000 people to show up, but we still had 944. And what was cool about it, it allowed people to really take their time and get in and see the displays. And according to Mark Pegler over at Frontier Village, I'm sorry, he said it was the busiest Sunday he's had in years. So I'll take that as a success. It worked. And we got to hear the bell ring 3 times. And I'm not sure if the guy from the state who's managing the bell can hear to this day, because he has to get his head right down there and hang it. But it was kind of fun to encourage him to do it again. And then our 40th anniversary is ongoing. We are working with, we have a committee. Teresa's on it, Luke's on it, I'm on it. We have some local people, including Debbie Secor is on it, and I'm going to miss some people. Danny's on it from Harold's, and Harold's actually has an event that he's committed to that we're committed to as well on June 27th. I'll look over Teresa. I think that's what it is. He's going to do a concert, but it's a concert for the town. Basically, it's going to be a special. Let's get all of our neighbors out to this, and there'll be speeches, there'll be fun, there'll be toasts, and it's to celebrate our town's 40th year of incorporation. And I know some of our people that were part of the incorporation are going to be there talking, so that will be fun. But it's party's not over yet at that point. Because of our funds, we know that our best bet is to just keep making noise and get people up to Cave Creek to experience Cave Creek into the fall. And so we have ongoing events in connection, like Taste of Cave Creek. We'll have a lot of messaging, but a lot of our social media will be come on up to Cave Creek, help celebrate the 40th anniversary, shop, visit with neighbors up here, and get to experience what we all love. So with that, any questions?
Question.
I have a comment. I just am so thrilled to have you on board, Bo. We took baby steps to get to where we are today with part-time people or less skill set than you have. For example, when Bo produced the video for the State of the Town, which was about a 12-minute video, when I used to do that, I spent $20,000 to produce a 12-minute video. Bo has saved us an incredible amount of money because he can do this himself. So we're thrilled that you're here. We're lucky that you're here. You and your presence in this department is a culmination of what I intended when I was first running for council, because we had nothing. We had no way to communicate with our residents, with our businesses, with our employees. So, I mean, I'm sure they tried in their own way, but they didn't have the staff who knew how to do it. So now we do, and we're thrilled with the results. At least I am. And I just encourage you to keep at it, even though you're a department of one. It is a we, because you work with everybody in the whole company.
True.
And with the council and with other residents throughout the town, all of our volunteers. So you're not in isolation. You work as a team, and you're the leader of it, and we're very proud of you.
Well, thank you.
Other comments, questions?
Since we work with True West and Bob Bosbell, and we're supporting him as well, why don't we get him involved with some of our stuff for the 40th? He has been here for at least 37 or 38 years over there.
Well, not to cut you off, but he is the feature article in our upcoming Prospector, writing about the history of the town. And I'm also working with Cave Creek Museum. We have a special insert. It's going to be an 8-page newsletter coming out. And so he is the feature writer on that. Excellent. But thank you.
Anyone else? Bo, this is just outstanding. I haven't seen statistics like that, professional looking statistics, that the kind of science behind that you've got going since I left a Fortune 10 company many years ago. So
May I have your budget for
I tried, Bo, I tried.
No.
no, I think I'm just blown away by how much better it is than before you got here. I mean, it really has leaped up into the stars. This is just amazing what you've done here.
Thank you.
Other comments, questions? There's no further business. Anyone have any objection to adjourning? Seeing no objection, meeting adjourned.
Good job.